Hey folks, it's Andy and welcome to the Kendo rant. Bit of a mega rant today. I've got some catching up to do, so let's get it started. Okay, a year and a half ago, I bought a torque on oval grip Shinai. Thank you very much. What I didn't realize was that how my Kendo intensity was going to be on the increase. The Shinai is not yet cracked, but it started flaking. What are the signs that you need a new Shinai? And where would you recommend getting a Koto style Shinai? Brackets, no need to be madake. Okay, so in terms of how you can tell when the Shinai is ready for a replacement, yeah, I mean, when it starts to either completely crack or when it starts to kind of splinter off so much that it's kind of not stopping, and that you're having to keep shaving it away so there's not really much left. So yeah, that's what you have to kind of do with that. You have to kind of judge it yourself a little bit as well. In terms of where you can get a Koto style Shinai, of course at KendoStar.com. We've got them in the premium Shinai section. I think we've got one called I can't remember what it's called right now, but if you go on to KendoStar.com, we've got one on there, and we don't have one in the standards section right now, but we've got them coming very, very soon. So definitely keep an eye on that because they're coming soon. All right. Okay, next one. I'm currently training for a national level Kendo competition. I'd like to find out your thoughts or personal routine, if not too personal, in regards to after Shiai recovery. The competition I'm training for is run over 2 days, individuals on the first day, teams on the second. I currently train 3 days a week for 2 hours. The morning after training, I can barely walk. Do you have any tips or tricks which allow your body to recover and gets you ready for another day of competition? Thanks for your advice. P.S. I love my KendoStar Bogu. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah. Okay, I can definitely relate to this. Totally. Okay, so when you've got a big competition that's 2 days in a row, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're properly hydrated and properly taking enough nutrition throughout the day of the matches that you actually play in. Eat stuff like bananas if you can, stuff that's got protein in it and stuff like that. I'm no expert on this sort of thing, but this is just the sort of thing that I did when I was competing a lot. Yeah, bananas, stuff like that, protein bars or what have you. And definitely after everything's finished as well. You can get like recovery formula and stuff like that, but I don't use any of that sort of stuff. Again, I just stick with like bananas, sort of more natural stuff. Sometimes I do have like protein shakes or something that I might take if it's been particularly intensive. It depends how many matches I did on the day. Depends how well I was doing in the Shiai, shall we say. And then the other thing is just make sure you're properly hydrated and you get enough sleep. Yeah, definitely get up and get enough sleep. Get up in plenty of time before the Shiai, so you're not rushing there on the next day whilst your body's still aching after getting out of bed, because that's definitely not what you want to do. If you've got time, get up nice and early. Maybe have a nice warm shower to warm up your muscles, and have a stretch before you get dressed in the morning before you go to the Shiai. And I think that will help. Hello Andy, I found this video on YouTube about electronic scoring Bogu. What are your thoughts on a system like this? I think it's rubbish. I think it's a total waste of time, and I think the video is its own argument as to why not to. You did post a video of some people using this electronic scoring Bogu, and it's a total mess. Two guys just kind of hacking at each other with sticks and not doing anything that particularly resembles Kendo at all. So yeah, I think that video provides a perfect example as to why I think it's a bad idea. Last Christmas, I received a gift of a new cotton Seiai Zome Kendogi Hakama set. I washed the Kendogi in cold water according to Andy's instructions on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. After 3 washes, the water stopped turning blue, and now I get no more dye on my fingers when rubbing the Kendogi. Fantastic. Good. Now I'm dealing with the Hakama, but I've been washing it in the same way for 2 days now, and the water never went blue. My hands got blue when rubbing it, so I presume nothing's wrong with the dye. Any idea of how I can make the Hakama bleed to mix this dye? Okay, so this is totally normal. It's totally normal. The Kendogi always bleeds a lot more dye than the Hakama. Actually, often what's kind of funny is sometimes with the Hakama, if you submerge it in the water, soak it in the water, it kind of goes a brownish colour rather than a bluish colour, kind of yellowish brown. It's kind of, that's part of the dye as well, funnily enough, all right? Don't worry about it. Just do it that way. Don't worry if not too much comes out in the water. you don't want to wash too much of it out of the hakama anyway. So yeah, if you've done it already, then just get on to wearing the hakama. It's still going to stain your blue a little bit, but you know, it'll wash off in the shower. And it's kind of a rite of passage as well, really, with a new hakama. But there's not a lot more you can do, to be honest. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. Get on with using your new uniform. Next, how deadly can Kendo be? I heard someone's neck broke and he died. My friend told me that he saw it in a competition in Russia. I think your friend's pulling your leg, to be honest. I've never seen or heard of that, certainly not in Russia. And I'm sure if it had happened, I'd have heard about it. I pretty much know, not everybody, but like I pretty much know quite a lot of the people in the Russian Federation, Kendo Federation, that is. So I've never heard of such a story. I certainly don't think that it's true. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, let me know. But of course, it's not impossible that could happen, but it's very, very, very unlikely. It's not that people don't die from Kendo. Some people do. I mean, there is the tale of having someone's Shinai broken and it's gone through the mengane and pierced their eye and into their brain and stuff. That is a story that goes around. I'm sure that's happened. But actually, what actually is the biggest cause of problems for people in Kendo and does sometimes result in death is dehydration and heat stroke, especially in Japan and hot countries. I mean, in Japan particularly is where it happens because there's the most people practicing Kendo there. And in the summer, it gets very hot, close to 40 degrees. You got very humid weather. Sometimes they'll not even open the windows. They have very hard practice. It's often kids, high school kids, where they're put through very intensive, very grueling practices where they're not maybe even allowed to take the water break, which isn't very good. I mean, they've clamped down on this now, so it doesn't happen so much anymore. But it used to be quite bad. And yeah, kids sort of fall over in practice, end up going away in an ambulance. And yeah, and on the odd occasion, it has resulted in people actually, unfortunately, passing away. So that's what I've heard anyway. But I mean, I think you're more likely to die doing something more popular, something like soccer or something like that. I think more people die doing that than they do Kendo. Okay, there's a person in my dojo, fourth dan, that every time I do keiko, he has the habit of doing tayatari on my neck when I go for men. On one occasion, I fell back because of this. This has resulted in me holding back when I train with him and thus just wanting for the time to pass until I get to train with another person. I've been taught that tayatari is with your memento, using your body and having your hands in front of your do, thus pushing the core body. Now, I'm not comfortable correcting fourth dan, especially since no one else does, but I'd like to be able to go to work the next day and not risk injuries. Any advice? Yeah, absolutely. This is a common problem, even at fourth dan. Somebody doing the incorrect tayatari, pushing up like this. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few years we see this become the hansoku actually in Shiai, to push upwards from below. But I don't think that would necessarily stop people doing it, especially in practice. But here's the thing. Here's what you can do. If you're getting hit in the neck, he said, if you're getting hit in the neck, then this is after you're hitting men, right? So this must mean that your hands are coming up like this after you're hitting men, right? Because otherwise there's no room for their hands to get in there. What you have to try and do is keep your hands forward in front of you, man, like this, and go forward and go in with full momentum, but you shouldn't be passing them with your back to them either. In Jigeko, that's the bad zanshin. I've got a video about zanshin, so go and watch that as well, because that'll keep you safer as well. But you should keep your hands in front of you, not over your head like this, so that you can't receive that tayatari here. Okay. Next one, kind of continuing the questions from overworking. If it does happen so that only my foot is injured, is there anything I can do to still improve my kendo aside from watching videos? Also, do you think time off kendo is wasted or actually improves your kendo some way? So yeah, if you kind of overtrain yourself and you get an injury in your foot, there's definitely stuff you can still do. Obviously, mitori geiko, watching videos like you say, but someone else has actually asked about injuries to the foot as well later, which I'll come to as well. But basically, there's nothing to stop you still going to the dojo and doing what you can. You can still participate in suburi, even if you can't stamp, or maybe even you can't do suriashi, then you could sit down and do suburi. There's nothing to stop you doing that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think about other ways that you can practice. Like say, you could sit in a chair, do suburi, for example. And in terms of time off Kendo, I think it's pretty wasted in terms of your Kendo progression. Sometimes it can be good for the better. Sometimes it can be, but like I wouldn't say like an extended period. I'm talking like a week or two maximum. Like sometimes, especially if you're training a lot, like or every day. And I've been in that situation where I've trained like sort of 6 times a week, and I'm like, I've had enough. Like, you know, and I'm struggling to be motivated during my practice. So I just needed my own sort of spiritual reset in a way. It can be good in that situation. Yeah, definitely. Where you can just say, okay, look, well, do you know what? This week, I'm just going to take this week off, and then I'll hit it hard again next week. That can definitely help because it kind of reinvigorates you a little bit. It's a little bit like when you're at work. If you take a week off work, go on holiday or something, you can. It helps you sort of refresh. I know work's a bit different because you don't want to go back to work after a holiday, but you do feel a little bit more reinvigorated. You know what I mean? That's what I'd say in that one. As someone who's participated in the WKC multiple times and practiced Kendo around the world, do you have anything to say about different countries' style of Kendo? As an example, does a Canadian player play that much differently to a French player? This is potentially controversial, really, but I don't think so. To be honest, no, not massively. Yeah, there's some different styles. Of course, there are. There are, especially in national teams. I think that's partly to do with the culture and the instruction that they're receiving in their own countries. So, you know, especially certain teachers. But it's only the same as it happens in Japan too, right? It happens in Japan too, and it's nothing to do with the person's nationality or their where they're from, you know what I mean, or what country they're doing Kendo. It just depends on the environment in which they're practicing. So in Japan, it's exactly like that too. You often find that people from a certain area might do Kendo differently to people in a different area, even though it's in the same country. Yeah, so people in Kyushu might do Kendo differently to people in Hokkaido. For example, or more likely, people from a specific school that have been taught by a specific sensei tend to have similarities that are sort of specific to them. That's different to even someone else in the same prefecture. A different school from a different prefecture could have a different style of Kendo. That's what I'd put that down to. Nothing to do with like countries and stuff. It's just down to experience, the people teaching them, and the sort of culture that they're actually practicing in. Hey, I have a question about the Fighting Spirit Award in competitions. What are the criteria to give this award, and what do the judges look for? Okay, so the Fighting Spirit Award is, in my experience, it's a very like, it's quite a Western thing, for want of a better term. I've only seen this in tournaments outside Japan as a fighting spirit prize. I never saw it in Japan. They do have what's called Kantosho in Japan, though, which is often what I know in the UK they've used the word Kantosho to call the Fighting Spirit Award. And they do give it in the World Championships as well, if I remember rightly. And it is given as a Fighting Spirit Award rather than a kind of traditional Kantosho. Kantosho, it pretty much does mean Fighting Spirit Award. But like in the All Japan Championships and in most tournaments, it's automatically given to the best 8. So the 4 people that were in the top 8 that weren't sort of 3rd place, 2nd place, or 1st place. So there's 4 of them given to the other 4 people that were in the top 8, basically. So that's the criteria for that in those respects. But otherwise, I believe that it's probably the team of referees on each Shiaijo would select a player or a number of players. It depends how many they decide to give out. And based on their fighting spirit shown in the actual day of matches. So especially people tend to receive it if they achieve or perform a particularly impressive Shiai. Perhaps they overcome an opponent who maybe is much more experienced than they are, or much more physically able than they are, or maybe that they have a particularly dominating presence on the Shiaijo throughout the day. It could be a variety of reasons, really. It's down to the opinions of the referees on the day. This is a question on how to help beginners. It's commonly recommended for new kendoka to avoid practicing at home so they can avoid developing bad habits. To me, this seems like a silly recommendation as long as the student is going to class often enough. I'm not sure how they're expected to progress quickly without practicing at home. Since they are going to practice anyway, what's the best thing to advise new kendoka doing at home practice? Mitori Geiko is probably high on the list. It would be nice to give them some direction. Thanks. Okay, so this is a question from the Kendo Show Early Access group. If you haven't joined the group, there's a link in the description. I've said this every video I've done so far, so you'd only be hearing about this for the first time if it's the first time you've seen one of these videos, in which case, welcome to the Kendo Rant. We're already like 15 minutes in. Go and join the group if you're not in it already. If you're not in it already, what are you doing? Get in it. There's a link down there. Okay, so great question. Some people do say to beginners, don't practice at home. I've never said that. I always encourage beginners at my club to practice at home, but they need, because I remember when I was a beginner, I was so obsessed with Kendo. I really wanted to get better as fast as I could, even when I was like a total beginner. So even if my teacher had told me not to practice at home, I still would have done anyway, because I was just that obsessed with it. I just think the best thing that they can practice at home is suriashi, basic footwork, trying to practice the fumikomi as well, and making the strike and stamp at the same time, because that's what most beginners really struggle with. We've got a video about that, so direct them to the Kendo Show, because there's loads of stuff on there they can watch and practice at home as well. There's loads on this channel. The videos about fumikomi, the videos about suburi. I've even got a video on this very channel called How to Practice Kendo at Home, or something like that. It's about practicing Kendo at home, all right? So direct them to that, and they can't go wrong. Question more business related than usual maybe. Are you planning to have kids Bogu section in the future? There seem to be websites selling, very few websites selling secondhand outlet stuff, especially doll. Is there a lively secondhand market in Japan? Okay, so yes, I will be having more kids Bogu. We do have some already. The Vanguard Junior is absolutely brilliant kids set. It's what I have for my own kids, because I designed it especially because I wanted the most protective possible Bogu I could for my kids, because they're the most precious thing in my life. So I wanted them to be well protected during Kendo. So yeah, check out the Vanguard Junior straight away. But also, yeah, we will have more sets coming very, very soon. So definitely keep your eyes on the website for that. In terms of the second-hand market, especially in Japan, no, not really. They do have Yahoo Auction, which is like their version of eBay. And you can find bits of Kendo stuff on there, but it's not very popular. Most people don't want to buy a second-hand Bogu for their kid. Most people want to buy them a new set. To be honest, and it tends not to be that much cheaper anyway by buying secondhand. Okay, when we practice Kirikaeshi at full speed and full spirit, it often looks like helicopter with the left hand not really in the center. What's the limit? How to avoid that? Okay, so it's wrong if that's what's happening, all right? When you're doing Kirikaeshi, your left hand has to stay in the middle, even if you're doing it quickly, okay? So it has to stay in the middle all the time. You mustn't do like this. All right, if you're doing like this, all you're doing is, it doesn't matter how fast you go, how loud you shout, all you're doing is making yourself tired for no good reason. You're not going to improve your Kendo by doing that. Cutting the correct sayumen in Kirikaeshi is so, I can't stress how important that is to the rest of your Kendo, because it's directly relational to other aspects of your Kendo. Things like cutting do properly. So if you can't do Kirikaeshi like that, you can forget doing waza like men kaeshi do, men nuki do. You can forget even trying to do kote kaeshi men, probably even suriage men, and even basic tenuchi, okay? So the limit is, never take your left hand out of the middle, even if you're going quick, okay? So men, even if we go quick, men. See how my left hand never goes out of the middle, yeah? Never goes out of the middle, okay? It should never do that. What that comes from is people aiming at the Shinai. When the receiver's blocking with the Shinai, they're aiming at the Shinai instead of aiming at the men. Yeah. So yeah, there's zero tolerance on that in my club. You're saying what's the limit on how far you can push that? I mean, it's like I say, it's totally Zero. even in really advanced Kirikaeshi, if you do this, there's such a thing as small Kirikaeshi. So instead of lifting the Shinai all the way over the head, it's a small cut Kirikaeshi. But even then, the left hand stays in the middle. Yeah. There's no good reason to take it out of the center. All right. If you can't do it quickly whilst keeping your left hand in the middle, then do it slowly. Whilst doing Mitori Geiko of high school Kendo, I noticed some do fit differently to others. Some do were shaped more circular or even oval shaped and allowed for noticeable space between the do and the shiaisha on the sides, and others made an almost perfect U shape, allowing for no space. Is one correct, and what or more correct in your opinion? Yeah, the correct way is there shouldn't be too much space between the sides and the inside of the door. So if I can just grab this without knocking everything over. So the insides of the door here, right? There should literally be just 1 or 2 fingers width, right? To be able to fit in here and the sides, all right? Now, high school Shiai, you are going to see them all over the place. It's not correct, right? But most of those kids are using door that don't belong to them. They're using door that belong to the school because it's like a team door. And they're still kids. So some of them are really, really thin. And they're all sort of different sizes. That's why. But when you're an adult and you get a Bogu that's fitting you, it needs to fit with literally just 1 or 2 fingers width between each side, between your sides. Yeah, anything bigger than that is too big, really, and it can be adjusted very easily. But there was a myth going around. They used to have to fit a fist in either side. That's total nonsense. You don't want to do that. The door will not protect you properly if you do that. It'll look stupid. It'll get in the way of your elbows. It'll kind of move like this when you get hit on it. It'll kind of move over this way. It won't protect you properly, and it could even damage the door itself. So yeah, like I say, it should have just like 1 or 2, maybe two finger widths is ideal between the insides of the door and the sides of your body. Okay, right, where are we? Right, hello, I started Kendo about 4 months in, and I love it. Problem is, about 2 weeks ago, I broke my right ankle in 3 places. Ow. Requiring surgery, about 6 weeks in a cast before PT. I'm going to our weekly practices to watch our and continue learning. But my question is, has anyone else had similar injuries? And what do you do to get back into the game once you're able to begin PT? PT, that's like physiotherapy, right? A bit slow there, but I finally clocked it. I'm there as I'm reading now. I'm trying to think PT. Okay, physiotherapy is. I'm assuming what you mean. Okay. Yeah, definitely keep going to the dojo, and don't just watch, right? Take your Shinai, get changed into your Dogi and Hakama, right? And if you need to, take a chair, right? And sit on the chair and do Suburi with everybody, right? You can still, do everything you can. I've told this story on here before, but when I first started going to a dojo when I lived in Kumamoto with my little girl, my oldest and my 2, when she first started Kendo, there was a girl quite a few years older than her, but still a primary school child. She was about 11 at the time. She started at the same time as my daughter did, and she loved Kendo. She really, really loved it. She really put her heart and soul into it, even though she was starting much later than the other kids. The other kids were all like 7 or 8, like my daughter was. Anyway, this girl, about 4 or 5 months in, during Suburi, when they would do the highest Suburi, and then the last one they do men, and they go into the middle, and she tripped on a hakama and she broke her ankle. And yeah, she was out for like 3.5 months or something like that. I can't remember. She was out for ages. She was in a cast. But she came to practice 3 times a week, every time. She got changed into the dogi and hakama. She did everything she could. She sat in a chair in the corner of the dojo, either doing Suburi, or they had an uchikomi dai, which is like a mannequin that you put the Bogu on that you can actually hit. She set it to the height of the chair and she practiced her tenuchi on that. And she did that religiously 3 times a week. And she was there the whole session. Whenever sensei was speaking, she'd listen, pay attention, and she'd finish the practice dripping in sweat. Okay, she's like 11 or 12 years old. Okay, so and I remember seeing that, and I remember finding that really inspirational myself. So bear that in mind. And same to the other person as well that was asking about the foot injury. And then once you start to recover, just ease yourself back into it slowly. All right, don't run before you can walk, for want of a better analogy. Okay, I got a question on one noticeable difference between Tachi no kata 1 to 7 and Kodachi no kata 1 to 3. In Tachi no kata, when both Uchitachi and Shitachi meets in the center, there's always a pause by the Uchitachi before he initiates the first attack. In Kodachi no kata, there is no pause by the Uchitachi. He cuts the moment he takes 3 steps into position. I've been doing kata for a while. It's only recently I've noticed that. No one in my dojo is able to explain why. Okay, so yeah, you're absolutely right. So in most of the Tachi no kata, I'm pretty sure it's not quite that in all of them that the Uchitachi waits a moment before attacking. In some of them, there's a few exceptions to that, actually. But it doesn't matter. There is a definite, there's a definite difference in the attacking timing, especially in Kotachi no kata number 1. Number 2 is a bit different, but yeah, number 1, because it starts in Jodan, 1, 2, 3, and the idea is the Shitachi with the Kotachi is invading the Mai of the Uchitachi's Jodan, okay? He's coming forward and he invades the Mai, he invades the distance, and kind of takes away the advantage of doing Jodan for him. So before that happens, he feels that happened. Before that happens, 1, 2, 3 steps in. No, thank you, and I'm gonna hit you, okay? Because he's coming at me with a small sword. So he's trying to take away the chance of Shitachi from gaining an advantage over the distance. Because if the Shitachi with the short sword gets to a close distance, then it's less advantageous for Shitachi. Yeah, the Shitachi has the advantage at the further distance. So he's protecting his distance by attacking straight away, if that makes sense. At least that's my current understanding of it. If there's any like Hachidans in the chat or in the comments, let us know if I'm wrong on that. Okay, next one. I recently found a very interesting video of high school kendo ippons. Apparently it was filmed at high school level tournaments in Japan. The odd thing I noticed was the number of awarded ski ippons. I live in Canada, and a common practice here is to learn ski after achieving a relatively high grade or skill level, 3rd and 4th dan and up, depending on the dojo. So far, I've been to 5 fairly large tournaments with 4th dan and up divisions, yet none of them I have seen an ippon awarded for ski strike. Overall, there were only a few ski attempts in all divisions. When is Tsuki taught in Japanese dojos, and how common is it at the tournaments? Please feel free to share any thoughts and personal experiences on it. Okay, so actually, I've talked about this a little bit before on here. I actually teach ski to my beginners quite early, before they even start wearing Bogu. I introduce it as a basic waza from the start, but obviously on a very basic level. I think that ski is probably under-practiced, because we have this kind of fear of it as being a dangerous waza, and I actually don't think that it's as dangerous as it's perceived to be. But anyway, that being said, in answer to your actual question, people in Japan start to learn ski when they become high school students. They're not allowed to do ski before that. They do, they start to practice it from high school. And it's then included in their, for the most part, their practice regime, which is every day. Okay, so they're practicing it every day, don't forget. Secondly, I'd probably say that if you watch the kind of high level players, probably the ratio of Tsuki ippon is probably similar, even in those high school tournaments. But the reason that you notice it more in a video like a compilation, ippon compilation, is because Tsuki is an impressive waza, right? When you see one decided, one scored, it's impressive. Oh wow, that was cool. Because it's very difficult. But what you have is a compilation video of a high school Shiai. You got to remember, a high school Shiai, even a relatively local one, could have 8 or 10 Shiaijo at any one time. Maybe not so big. Maybe 6. At least 4, probably 6 or 8 Shiaijo. There's a lot of Shiai going on just in one day. A lot. All right. So if you film all of the Ippon throughout that day, you're going to get some Tsuki Ippon. Okay, you're going to get some just out of law of averages, and they're going to make it into the cut, and they're going to make it into the Ippon compilation video because they're rarer than the others. So that's why it feels like they're probably more common than what you're seeing in other areas. And then the other thing I would say is probably there is a slightly different flow to the Shiai, okay? Because generally there's a kind of slightly different kind of conversation that happens between the Shinai in sort of Japanese high school Shiai, which they're kind of getting to grips with the idea of seme and riai, and if you've got one kid that's a little bit more advanced than another kid, then he's going to find it a bit easier to kind of get that waza like ski to be successful. So there's that as well. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that. Andy, I think you might have touched on this before. How old were you when you started Kendo, and what was it originally caused you to start practicing Kendo? I was 19 years old when I started practicing Kendo, and I got into it through an introduction from a friend. A close friend of mine had practiced Kendo in the past, and they actually gave me one of their Shinai. I thought it was really cool. I went on the internet, searched up what it was for. I obviously knew it was for Kendo. They told me it was for Kendo and sort of showed me a little bit. And it just so happened that week a new Kendo club was opening. I wouldn't say super close to where I live, but reasonably close for the sort of UK standards. And I went along, and the rest was history. Okay, this is the last one. Hi Andy, due to an injury, I tried Katate Jodan for the first time. It was really hard, but I held my own. Could you talk a little about comparative advantages and disadvantages of Katate Jodan, Hidari Jodan, and Nito? Okay, it's hard to say whether there's advantages and I mean, of course, there's advantages and disadvantages to all of the different kamae. Katate Jodan depends. If you're doing like Hidari Katate Jodan, Migi Katate Jodan, obviously the disadvantage of that is that you aren't able to use both your hands, so you can't get, and you still have to use a full size Shinai, adult size Shinai. So it can be harder to get power and speed in the Shinai. But you're attacking with Katate waza though, so you can attack from further away. So that's definitely an advantage. And also, many people aren't used to fighting such a kamae, so you will have that as well in your favor. Something like Hidari Jodan faces very much similar things, except you've actually got another hand as well. So you've got the choice of two-handed waza, which you wouldn't have with Katate Jodan. Nito has the advantage that it's got a short sword, of course, which is useful for blocking, and also obviously for applying seme or moving the opponent's Shinai out of the way. But again, it's very much katate waza, so it's much harder to, even though you're using a slightly smaller, lighter Shinai in Nito, it's still very hard to get the crisp, sharp strikes, especially with speed. And I think it's also very hard in Nito to do like it's quite an advanced concept, but things like hikihana waza. So hikihana waza is when you like kind of retreat, and then they kind of advance on you to make an attack, or even any sort of like waza where, like, I think Debana waza is very, very hard in Nito actually, because in Debana waza you have to kind of make them attack, and I think that's very difficult for a Nito player. Actually, Jodan player not so much, because they've got this left kote that's very inviting. Yeah, it's very inviting for the opponent. Come on then, hit my kote. And the minute they move, bam, they can do that Debana waza. But with Nito, it's not so easy, I don't think, to get that reaction in order to do Dabanawaza. So yeah, I think that's a disadvantage of Nito. But obviously, it's a much harder kamae to penetrate. It's very it can be very, especially if the player's defensive, it's very difficult to make the strike against somebody that's trying to hold you off. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Okay, that's the end of the questions. I've been going on for ages now. It's been a super mega rant because I did have a bit of catching up to do. I'm sorry it's been a while since I got a video out. Things have been mega busy here at KendoStar, and I just haven't been able to sit down in front of the camera. But do keep the questions coming though. That's what the comment section is for. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you'd like me to rant about next time. Don't forget to join the Kendo Show Early Access group, and make sure you're doing your shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar.com, that's the website that I run. Come on, you all know now, this isn't the first time you're watching this, and if it is, get to KendoStar.com. That's where it's all at, yeah? That's obviously the website I run that provides Kendo gear. That'll do for today, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much for watching.